Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists. If you were around in the 1940s and you were into cars, you'd remember a style of car that was very different. The hot rod. Stay right where you are as we define the meaning of a hot rod at the 2019 Kumeu Classic Car and Hot Rod Festival on this week's Classic Restos. If you once owned a horse and you could beat that kid on the next farm in a race, you had something a little special. By the time cars came around, the same thing applied. For as long as the history of the automobile, getting a performance edge to most became an exciting adventure. Before the 1940s, most cars were fairly slow, but it didn't matter all that much because everyone was in the same boat. But when we talk of the United States of America, it was a different ballgame. There was a special engine developed by Ford in the 1930s that ignited a spark, not only within their own engines, but with every potential gearhead as well. The side valve V8. It didn't take long for any guy that enjoyed wheeling a spanner around to work out that these Ford V8s took on a whole new revolutionary stand. The cars were light, and if you could make them even lighter and gave them a loud exhaust, you just found step one of a recipe for every young boy racer to embrace. By the time the 50s came around, the older cars in the junkyards were like stepping stones. For 10 or 20 bucks, you could take an old car home, rip the fenders off it, remove the engine cowl, put a couple of neat pipes out the side, paint some cool stripes down the sides of the doors, and you had it. The hot rod. In the 50s and 60s, the Ford Flathead V8 was surpassed by the Chrysler firepower engine known as the early Hemi. Many hot rods would upgrade the brakes from mechanical to hydraulic, and headlights from bulb to sealed beam. A typical mid-1950s to early 1960s custom was fenderless, chopped, and powered by a Ford or Mercury Flathead V8. If this was you, and you were the toughest kid on the block, you were well respected. The hot rod is a cause for celebration, and that is exactly what happens at the Kumeu Classic Car and Hot Rod Festival.
This is the 25th 2019 Kumeu Classic Car and Hot Rod Festival, and this year we've got a big emphasis on street machines and cruising cars and classics. Last year we had hot rods and stuff like that, so hey, it gives everybody a chance. For example, hey, if they want it, that's the way it's going, it's the way it's going, you know, like just get with the times, and all the baby boomers are now buying cars and all that, so like you just got to cruise. And that's the whole thing, you know, if people like their cars, well, they just bring them out, we don't care what they are. Well, we've got guys here with Galaxies with 1,000 horsepower and chopped roofs and all that, and you go, really, you know, that's pretty cool. And that's what Kumeu's about, cruising, enjoying yourself, and 3 days of fun, swap meet, the whole 9 yards. Obviously the filming of Classic Restos has gone around the world, and we're getting guys from America and all that coming because they've seen it. And now we're getting guys in Australia coming over and making inquiries. And what happens is that it's a good thing, it's a good fit. And it's really good that Classic Restos and all that, they bring in the other part of it. And it's also about the fact that we can't contact everybody. However, if they want to come, they just come over and enjoy it, you know, it's a weekend of fun.
Here at Kumeu we have show sheds, but before I show you what is going on over there in those, these cars behind us are for sale. Yes, gone are the days of the $400 fixer-upper, but at least these can be inspiration for a current project that you may be doing or up-and-coming acquisition. Next year in 2020, come to Kumeu. It's easy to find, just south of Double Overhead Underhang. You'll drive through Did She Ducker Under, turn left at Wakutini Witherthong, over the bridge into Sezu, then Kumeu.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannon's home and contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannon's.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392. How would you like to double your garage space and work on your cars easily? Well, bring in your own hero with a Lift King hoist. Easy to install models in 1, 2 and 4 post styles. Check the very nifty Spider 2500 portable mini scissor lift. Hero hoists are either Oz certified or carry the Euro CE, your guarantee of quality construction and reliability. I regularly stand under my Lift King, so when you need a bit of a lift, why don't you go stand under yours? Hare & Forbes Machinery House has been family owned and operated for over 85 years, and it's easy to see why. Planning on welding? Look at these welding tables and clamps, air compressors and different air tools, sandblasting cabinets, through to spray guns. Everyone is welcome at Machinery House. There are competitive freight rates around Australia, and you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. So remember, Hare & Forbes has the range. Here at the Kumeu Classic Car and Hot Rod Festival, well, there is something for everyone. We're in the bike shed. How you doing, Baz?
I'm very good, thanks, Fletch.
That's the way, mate. What's going on in here?
Well, this is our third year of getting the bike shed up and running. And, you know, the first year we had maybe 20 bikes or something in the shed, and we didn't have any backdrops or nothing because just a few of us that decided that we'd like to, you know, start a show in the shed, one of the sheds, as something different than hot rods with 4 wheels. We thought, you know, we got plenty of hot rods here with 2 wheels, right?
The presentation here, Baz, this year, 3 rows of blue carpet, bikes on display, heaps of bling, different style. There's a lot of workmanship that's gone into these bikes, very much above and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's people put their heart and soul into doing this stuff, and just because a motorcycle's a lot smaller than a car, sure. There's probably just as much work and effort and money, maybe not quite money, but you know what I mean. Yeah, like, yeah. You know, there's motorcycles, you see every single part of them. Yeah. You don't shut the hood.
So, Baz, in terms of content in here, bit of classic stuff, bit of new stuff. What's the blend?
Well, we've got definitely some classic bikes here, some old war Harleys and Indians. We've got a real nice display at the back of the shed where a couple of the boys have set something up, like the Indian versus Harley, you know what I mean? Because they've both been around in the same sort of time frame.
Yeah, they're both very cool.
Yeah, they are both very cool. Yeah, we've got some old school choppers, and we've got some new school choppers, you know, and late model touring bikes as well. So yeah, the whole range is pretty well covered. Nothing in the vintage class, but definitely in the customised class, you know.
What you said earlier too, Baz, is interesting about the transition of, okay, we've got the classic car and hot rod festival, but going out on that extra limb and, hey, let's incorporate bikes. And as you said as well, it's slowly progressed over the years to now in 2019, the most ultimate bike display here in the history of the Kumeu event.
Yeah, that'd be right, yeah. And, you know, I've got to thank Ken and Desma and the organisers of the show for allowing this to sort of happen, you know. Sometimes hot rodders can be staunch and hot rods are hot rods and don't be bringing nothing else in here. But these guys out here in West Auckland, I think there's a little bit of bike in every hot rodder, you know what I mean?
Well, I like to get behind the bikes as well on classic Restos because at the end of the day as well, we're still talking restorations, we're still talking preservations of a machine. Whether it's 4 wheels or 2, you know, these blokes have still got sheds at home, and a lot of us can appreciate the work that goes into a restoration.
Absolutely.
Now, Baz, Poor Justice has been running now for 10 years. Tell us about that.
It's an organisation that fundraise for supporting cruelty against animals, you know, preventing all that sort of stuff going on, and no one likes to see that happen. And each year these guys go to many events around the country raising funds for that, you know. And Poor Justice is there to help change that, and they have a raffle going each year. We've got a brand new Indian motorcycle that's going to go up, and raffle tickets will be sold here. And it's going to be drawn in April this year, all right? These guys do a great job, and it'll be real cool for people to come down and support this event.
Well, Baz, on that note, mate, great catching up with you. And this is an early start here. This is a massive event for Kumeu for 2019. Early start before this shed fills up, and boy, it's going to.
Yeah, it'll fill out, but you can't move in here. That's awesome.
Keep up the great work, Baz.
Thanks very much, Fletch. Cheers.
Here we are at the 2019 Kumeu Classic Car and Hot Rod Festival in shed number 1. Every year there's something different in these sheds. It always makes it interesting. How you doing, Justin?
Yeah, great, thanks, Fletch.
That's the way, mate. Now, you've got something very special here. We're going down the road with custom. Now, you've got a 1964 Galaxie. You've done some serious stuff here.
Yeah, it's been rear halved. It's got a 3-inch chop. The exhaust come out the side. I don't think anything on it hasn't been touched.
This is serious. Let's start from the front, move towards the back. What's going on up under the hood?
It's a 580 cubed eliminator, premium block. It's probably 871 supercharger on it, AFR heads, poking out about close to 1,000 horsepower. And then TrueMac T56 Magnum behind that, 6-speed box, and Ford 9-inch diff at the rear there.
What's it like to drive?
Oh yeah, it's a handful. It's pretty interesting. It just breaks traction in every gear.
So it's caught your attention a few times?
Yeah, it is. It wakes you up.
Now the roof turret, a serious chop there, but it's just nice. It already adds to that cigar profile down the side of this car, the low hood line. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's had 3 inches chopped out of it. The front screen laid back, and the back one laid in a little bit as well. So custom glass all the way through it, apart from the rear screen. So.
How'd you go with the glass? Is that much of a job to get that right?
Yeah, it took 3 windows. We tried to cut 3 of them. Ended up getting one made in Australia in Sydney. So flew one over and flew one back.
Amazing. Custom interior, Jason. We've got the oxblood colour in there on the leather. You can smell the leather. It's just sensational.
Yeah, it was actually done locally. A guy in about half an hour's drive from my house did it. So yeah, he did a really good job of it.
Back to the manual transmission, that little short throw shifter, that 6-speed box you got going on there. How cool is that? You've got this massive interior, a very wide car, and then if you look really close, here's this little shifter sitting there on the console. That's probably one of the neatest little shifters I've seen in a custom car.
Yeah, you can't buy anything like that, so I just made it, and it had to be short to be in proportion, and so yeah, works well.
Justin, with the wheels, tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, so there are 18 by 7 on the front and 20 by 16s in the back. So yeah, big bit of rubber and a big rim, but I think it looks in proportion with the car. So yeah, the car swallows them up real well.
Mate, it's good to have a quick car, but you've also got to pull up fast. So what did you do in the braking?
Yeah, it's got Woolwood 14-inch rotors on the front, 6-block calipers, and then on the rear it's got 12-inch rotors and 4-block calipers. So yeah, it stops really well.
That'd be a nice feel on the pedal, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's got a Woolwood pedal box in it, twin master cylinders. So yeah, it stops.
So Justin, thanks again, mate, for coming along to the 2019 Kumeu Classic Car and Hot Rod Festival and representing shed number 1 and making it as proud as you have, mate. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, Fletch. Thanks for your time.
If you own a classic, well, it goes without saying. It just has to be insured with Shannons. Why not pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646? And if you have anything to do with a classic bike, classic car or a classic truck club, make sure that it's listed with the Shannons Club for all the world to see. For more information, visit shannons.com.au.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal. An E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannon's understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 134646 for a quote.
In 2019, why not consider a Detroit tour with Fletch? Detroit, the automotive epicenter. It will leave you gobsmacked. Imagine experiencing where automotive history on a grand scale began. Stay in fine accommodation, taking in some of the best museums and private car collections on the planet. Book your 2019 Detroit tour with Fletch. 1300 146 392. If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare and Forbes has the range. Greg, you'd have to be happy with this 32 Roadster.
Oh yes, Fletch. It's certainly a dream come true, this car. It was built as a tribute to a mentor and a long-time friend that's passed away, Peter Dore, and he was quite a institution in hot rodding in New Zealand, built a lot of very cool cars, and one of those cars was a car that looked very similar to the one behind us.
Very cool, Greg. Now, because the running boards and fenders have been stripped on this car, can these still be referred to as a Roadster?
Yes, indeed. It's a Roadster. It's what's called a highboy Roadster. So back in the 30s and 40s, when guys like Vic Edelbrock would go to Almirage Dry Lakes in their street Roadsters, they used to drive every day around LA. They'd drive up to the lake beds, strip the fenders, the running boards, the bumpers, the headlights, and also the windscreen off, go racing and set records, bolt it all back together and drive home.
Don't you love that? So the cars with the running boards and the fenders, well, okay, we refer to those as Roadsters, and these can get that title as well, right?
Well, what it is you have Roadsters, coupes, and now even guys are doing Tudor and four-door sedans, fenderless. Yep. So that style of these guys stripping their hot rods to race at the dry lakes became a styling cue for these cars. So the fenderless deal can be on any body style. If you were to channel the car over the chassis, then it's called a lowboy. Right. Okay, so this car behind us is built to like the sort of 60s, 70s typical Southern California Roadster era with the mag wheels. I've got a moon tank that I put on the front sometimes, the Hurst shifter, 4-speed, quick change rear end.
I think too, depicting the profile of these vehicles, well, once again, the movies like American Graffiti, all that type of thing too. To think that these cars were just put on the map in such a big way, but yet the early beginnings were just so humble.
There's two very iconic cars. One is the American Graffiti car that John Milner drove. Everyone wanted a 32 5-window coupe, had to be bright yellow. The other car was the late Pete Chaporis' California Kid, 34 3-window coupe. It made the cover of the Rod and Custom magazine in November 73. The Hollywood got hold of it and turned it into the California Kid, and that movie had Martin Sheen in it. And a typical outlaw, hot rodder, being chased by the feds and all that kind of thing. And that car actually led to the creation of Billy Gibbons' ZZ Top Eliminator coupe. Yeah, right. So there's some chronological order of how this has all worked out, you know. This car was put on the road in 2010, November 2010. I started with 2 bare chassis rails and a floppy fiberglass body and a photograph of the late Peter Dore 32 Roadster I rode around in back in '89, and I just built the rest.
Did you build the rails?
No, the rails came from American Stamping, but I built everything in between that. The sky's the limit when it comes to building these cars. What probably dictates how we go about them is budget, and the neat part about this Fletch is there's a lot of reproduction bodies and parts and components available for these cars now, right through to 40 Ford coupes. You can buy a brand new steel reproduction 40 Ford coupe, and it just makes it a lot easier from the owner and the builder's perspective to build these cars, and a lot more cost effective.
1928 Model A, when we think of one of those, we think of a vehicle high up off the ground, fenders, running board, mesh grille, 21-inch diameter wire steel wheels, and here we have a racing car based on that. It's incredible.
Oh yes, Fletch, you've nailed it. This car started obviously as a 1928 Model A Ford, and it uses the chassis, the cowl, the grille, engine hood, and the suspension, and then it's all just been modified and tweaked to give like an Indy car, kind of Brooklyn's racer kind of feel to it, the boat tail kind of body and all that.
We've got a 4-cylinder engine now. Educate us here, or educate myself here. Based on the standard engine, what's going on here?
Oh, there's lots going on. It's got shell bearings opposed to the white metal bearings. It's got a fully counterweighted crank, twin carbs, electronic ignition, high compression head, and it's actually got a 5-speed gearbox behind it as well.
But it's based on the original design of the 4-cylinder engine?
Yes, it is. It's actually a 1932 engine, which was the 4-cylinder option in 32. They carried that on from the Model A, of course. But yeah, it's an original 1932 block, original 1932 crank, and it's all bulletproof inside. The owner drives the wheels off this car. He seriously drives it. Drag raced it over summer, took it to some historic racing round meets as well. He took 2.5 seconds off his time at the quarter mile, and it ran like a very low 20-second pass. Which doesn't sound exciting when guys are running 8 or 9 seconds in a street car, but when you've got a vintage car running 20 seconds over the quarter mile.
When you look at the 1970s, when you look at some of our 6-cylinder passenger cars, they used to run down the 400 or the quarter at way over 20. Yeah. So, all right, we're talking a passenger car stock standard from the factory in the 70s. Yeah. Well, we've got a lightweight, a little Roadster, a racer here, but it's interesting when you put all that stuff into perspective. Greg, it's been wonderful chatting with you. Again, we could talk all day to this guy. Wealth of information, and thanks for coming on to Kumeu.
Thanks, Fletch. Really appreciate it.
Right.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Cheers. How you doing, Gene?
Yeah, I'm going well, mate. Yeah.
That's good, that's good. This is an incredible shed, this one. We've gone from custom to hot rod, and now we've got this bad boy on the block, a 69 Plymouth with an original Hemi in it. Doesn't get much tougher than this.
No, well, certainly doesn't. It's a kind of the holy grail, I suppose, for the Mopar guys, really, Fletch. So, very pleased with the car and love it to bits, mate. So,
it's a good car after all these years.
Yeah, it is. It's about as honest as you'd ever find. It's 38,000 original miles, but the car itself and its panels is beautiful. The bodywork's nice. It's all there. It's all original. It's just, I guess people talk about survivors and what have you, but we're lucky it's a survivor and it's a Hemi. So
driveline on this car too, original 4-speed, the A833 box.
Yeah, it's correct. Tough as old boots box, but shifts real nice. Real positive feel about it, and yeah.
You have the Dana rear as well.
Yeah, correct. Dana rear. It's all the correct running gear in it. And, that's tough as boots as well. We've tested that out, so, yeah.
What other car lends itself to getting 4 poles or posts in the corner of your engine bay and getting your bonnet off spring hinges and suspending it over the engine? It just wouldn't look good on any other car, would it?
Nah, it's a bit of a, I guess, crazy design of the time. And this car, there's 2 hood options for this car. This option here was, made it easier pull it off, chuck it on the ground and do any work on the engine, and that was that's why it's ended up with this hood, is because of its race history. It made sense, you know. It's a factory J-code Hemi car, and it's although it's not quite the race Hemi, it's a street Hemi, but the same trend is there. It's come with you know, radio delete. It was heater delete. It's there's no power steer, no power brakes. It's as minimalistic as you get, just the best driveline they made.
Gotta love the steel wheels. I don't think there's an interview that goes by where I don't mention the steel wheels if I see them. There's just something about the steel wheels. You've got the big car, all this grunt, and you've got, a tyre in the front that's about I don't know, about a 195?
Yeah, that's about it. And in cross-buy terms, across the radio, it'll be about a 195, yeah. So, and that was the high-performance option at the time. So, yeah.
Terrific, Gene. Thank you so much. Now, you're a busy guy here this weekend. You're out and about. You're doing a bit of food here, I believe.
Yeah, helping out with the catering here, Fletch. So, yeah, we supplying hot dogs and chips and bacon rolls and yeah, I'm certainly getting my 10,000 steps in, mate. I'm running for it. So
I bet you. Well, when you're talking an event with potentially 3,000 cars all up and tens of thousands of people coming through the gate, mate, I suppose you better get back to the grill.
Yeah, back to it, mate, I think. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks very much, Gene.
Yeah, thanks for interviewing me, mate. Thanks.
Well, there you have it. Just a sample of the 2019 Kumeu Classic Car and Hot Rod Festival, and you've seen it first on Classic Restos. Now, on next week's show, I take you from the show sheds back out here into the paddocks to interview some interesting people with their classics. As I say at the end of every episode of Classic Restos, until next week, no matter where you're watching the show from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists.